Wonderful. Well, hello there, everyone. I'm Mark Porteous, and I am so happy to be here with you and my very special guest, Lillian Eve Moore from the Liberation Mastermind.
Hi, Mark.
How are you doing today, Lillian?
I'm so happy to be having this conversation with you today.
Me too. It's really fun. I know we both have lots of plans today, and that's one of the great things about our job is that we get to fit our work around our life instead of the other way around.
Yeah, definitely.
And I wanted to share with everybody that you're such a great example for why I am in this work, why I'm in the transformational industry. Such a wonderful human being that's really focused on helping other people. And so we'll talk a little bit more about how you're helping other people, and especially helping people who are helping other people.
Yeah, exactly.
Tonight we're going to discuss how to coach from a place of authenticity, even if you have your own difficult issues happening in your life. Lillian's been doing the healing work since she was 9 years old. Started as a coach, or started her coaching practice when she was 21. And you've been traveling around the world teaching your healing techniques for the last 6 years. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Wow, wonderful. Well, I'm curious because when you say that you started healing at 9 years old, how did that come about?
Yeah. Well, my stepmom became really ill when I was, she had a burst aneurysm when I was 8 years old. And she had 7 brain surgeries. And during that time, my parents were having, obviously going through this pretty intense crisis. And they were seeking any kind of help that they could find. And so there were a lot of shamans in my house growing up, and we were doing sweat lodges, and I received my first Reiki attunement when I was 9, and I would rescue little animals out of my pool and do Reiki on them to bring them back to life, and so that was my introduction to the healing arts, and I just fell in love with doing that kind of work. My spiritual life has been always the center of my life, so it's a way for me to engage with the world around me and also be communing with spirit.
That's wonderful, and I think that's another reason why I feel so connected with you, that spirit is always first. Everything is encompassed with that, so I appreciate that connection that we share. And I first found you actually through your website, The One Question, over a year ago. I didn't know it was you. I would have never guessed that it was you. And then to have found you again through many different synchronicities. And now, just like you are evolving so much just in the last year, your message is evolving as well.
Definitely. Which is really critical to, have a thriving coaching practice and career. If you're doing your own work, you're going to change, and when you change, your business changes.
Yes, absolutely. And so many people stick with what they're comfortable with and stay in that niche, and that will cause it to burn out or just doesn't thrive the way that we want it to.
Yeah.
So you said that you started your coaching business at 21. That's another interesting milestone. I know that a lot of people have a problem feeling like they have a lot to share, but they don't have enough experience, so how can they possibly be a coach? But here you were doing it at 21.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that and about how people can give advice even if they may not feel like they're experienced enough?
So I want to actually clarify. I started doing healing work when I was 9. I started doing healing work in something like a professional capacity at 18. So I went to massage school and I started doing massage and Reiki professionally, and then I started doing EFT for barter or free, or anyone who would let me practice on them. I think that really the answer to your question is that you can't coach if you don't have experience. You need experience. But experience is easy to come by. Whether that's bartering or just offering it up for free, or ideally, when you get trained as a coach, you get trained with experience. I learned what I do from many different teachers, but there always was a practical component to whatever program I was doing. For example, when I learned EFT, most of the workshop was practicing on the other participants. And so I didn't learn how to do EFT on myself, separate from doing EFT with other people.
Right.
And similarly with Reiki, before I got my second attunement, I had to do Reiki on my the Reiki master that had given me my first attunement. I was 14 years old. So, I was always encouraged from my spiritual teachers to practice constantly, to practice in my being, to practice just in the way that I moved in the world. So you need experience. Experience is mandatory. You can't get it. There's no way around it. But you can get experience easily.
Absolutely. And like you said, just practicing coaching with your friends, there is a lot of certification and training out there, but you can start coaching and you don't need certification of that particular training.
Yeah, certification is I think the least important thing, honestly. I think, what most important thing is doing good work. Least important thing is certification.
Yeah, for sure. One of the biggest challenges that I know I have faced personally, and I hear frequently from other coaches that are struggling to follow their own advice. How does that affect coaching?
Well, I think that advice is already, as soon as you're talking about advice, you're already a little bit on the wrong track. As coaching is very little bit about advice. It's a lot more about listening than giving advice. It's a lot more about being. I mean, advice, you're basically just engaging willpower. Like, how can I get somebody to do what they should do? How do I get myself to do what I know I should do? And as soon as you start that conversation, it's like starting a fight inside yourself. I don't want to. You have to. I don't want to. You have to. And you start doing that with your clients, and it ruins rapport. It's a struggle for them. They're not going to get the results they want. It's going to be exhausting. So I would say advice is like, advice comes in very rarely, and when it comes in, it should come in like, it should feel like water when you're thirsty. Like, oh, that's exactly what I needed to hear. And if you're giving that kind of advice, and you're giving yourself that kind of advice, it's easy to follow. The bigger issue is if you are out of integrity or you're out of alignment and you're trying to, regardless of what kind of coaching you're doing, regardless of what's going on in your client's life, really what you're working with is alignment. You're working with aligning your clients with their goals, aligning your clients with their values, aligning them with their higher self, ultimately aligning them with the whole creation and the infinite flow of goodness. So if you're sitting there doing that kind of work with your client, but you're out of alignment, you're not in that flow, that's what's going to have you feel like a fraud. That's what's going to have you feel like you're not speaking powerfully, that you aren't showing up powerfully. It's also what's going to have you not be able to sell your work because you're not going to believe in it. You're not going to be able to stand behind it. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely, definitely does. So if we feel like we're out of alignment, or we just have our own issues that are coming up in our life and don't know that feel like we're handling everything right, how do we know that that's a detriment to our client and whether or not that's interfering with our coaching?
Yeah. So one of the great things about having a spiritually aligned career is that the universe speaks to you in cash flow. So one of the great indicators that you're not spiritually aligned, that your foundational state, what I call your foundational state, is out of alignment, is if you're not making the kind of money that you feel good about, that feels like thriving to you. That's a good indicator. If people aren't approaching you, asking for your services, if people aren't wanting to work with you, if you're not magnetic and if your clients aren't getting brilliant results, I mean, miraculous, brilliant, tearful testimonials oozing out of their pores kinds of results, that's another indicator. More on a personal level, if you're finding that you're uncomfortable sitting in your own skin, if you're finding it harder to listen than to give advice, like you feel anxiety in your sessions, this is something that's really common, I think, for coaches, and it goes on unconsciously, where you start to feel a little bit anxious as your clients are talking about their problems, and you start feeling afraid of their problems, like, oh, that is really bad, but I've got all this good advice that if you do it, then maybe we can rescue the situation. And that's a really backwards way to approach personal problems, whether they're your own or your clients. So if you're feeling that kind of anxiety around these circumstantial problems, whether they're in your life or in your clients' lives, that's a good indicator that something's out of alignment. When you're in alignment, those personal problems, they're logistical. They're just problems. It's not bigger or scarier than just that. That being said, when you have problems in your life, like, you know, a marriage failing, or business going down, or financial crisis, when you are dealing with circumstantial problems in your own life, it's also a good idea to take a break from coaching in those specific areas, just because, you know, obviously they're going to be more likely to trigger you and trigger your fear responses, and it's going to be harder to see clearly and stay in that aligned state of knowing that everything's going to be working out for everyone's highest good.
You mentioned the foundational state.
Yeah.
Can you tell us more about that? What does that mean to you?
Yeah. So when I'm talking about your foundational state, I'm talking about your consciousness. It's like the level of your awareness. And this is like the filter that you're perceiving the world through, and it's the baseline for your thoughts and your feelings. So this is separate from your moods or your whatever emotional experiences you might have throughout the day. It's more of a baseline way that you experience life. And you know, when you're born, your foundational state is naturally aligned. Which to me means that you're naturally wired to do good for yourself and for others. You're part of a larger system, and you are just like a cell in a body. You are born with a divine function and a divine way of expressing yourself, and that divine way of expressing yourself is naturally good for everything else. Good for everything else. And through whatever childhood experiences, that state can get out of alignment, and then your foundational state becomes a state of fearfulness and separation. You lose touch with that interconnected knowing, and things get real wonky and kind of insane, and that out of aligned place.
So how do you get back into that aligned place once you find that you're out of it?
Well, since your aligned state is your natural state, it's actually really easy. You know, one of the things that I base my coach training program on is 4 principles of what I call the liberation principles. And that's that we are all connected, that we are all perfectly designed, that there's a natural flow towards well-being, and that we're infinitely powerful inside of this interconnected, naturally flowing towards well-being, perfectly designed universe. So with that, with that reality, with those laws in place, you're naturally already moving towards alignment. Already, whatever's going on in your life, no matter how deep in the pit of fear you are, no matter how separate and isolated you feel, you are moving towards alignment. You are moving towards reuniting or rather awakening to your alignment. And so it actually takes learning to get out of alignment. You learned to be out of alignment, not the other way around. You don't have to learn to be in alignment. You learned to be out of alignment, which is really great news, because it means that you have the whole universe pulling for your success already. You have a truth that's already pulling for your alignment. So on a simple level, it's just a matter of awareness and being aware of those laws. And then on a deeper level, it's also about unlearning and healing those fearful moments where you learned that being in alignment is dangerous. So because we're perfectly designed, we have these amazing emotional networks where something happens and it is stored in our system emotionally, so that we remember, like, fire, dangerous. And we remember that on an energetic level, on a chemical level, on an electrical level. Our system holds on to that knowledge so that we can keep our bodies alive. But we can do better. Huh?
I don't know, keep going.
Yeah, we can actually do better than that. That we can do better than just that animal response. We can actually integrate that and learn those signals of, oh, something's dangerous, and then actually release the fear and then return back to our aligned state. But as kids, if we're constantly in those fearful states, we're constantly in that stress state, or if it's modeled to us, the people that we're learning from are demonstrating those states, then we take that on into our own energy system, and it becomes harder to return back to our aligned state. So by going back into your childhood and resolving those, this is different from psychotherapy of like understanding. This is actually changing your response, undoing the imprinted energetic reaction. Then you naturally do realign to your natural foundational state.
What I was going to ask is, I'm curious to hear your perspective. So a lot of people must hear your story that you were raised with shamans and doing sweat lodges, and so your life has always been peachy and wonderful, and that's why you're so happy. Is because everything has always been given to you. That life is just easy and wonderful for you. I hear that a lot. That you're so happy because your life is so good, and I do appreciate my life. But has your life always been this wonderful and peachy?
I was really given a miraculous gift, and in my contrasting experiences in my childhood, because I was given 16 acres and horses and fairies and sweat lodges and private school education, and I was given a lot of really amazing gifts as a child, and very spiritually in tuned parents, and a lot of amazing gifts. And I was also given some pretty severe trauma. My biological mom is schizophrenic, and my first 3 years of life were extremely treacherous. There wasn't food, we were physically abused, we were neglected, and there was, even from 3 on, there were periods of like that, periods of intense abuse and psychological messes being made in my being.
Mm.
So by the time I left my family of origin, by the time I turned 18, I was in pretty rough shape. I had a clear internal understanding of what was possible in terms of healing. Like, I felt I had a deep relationship with God and Earth, and so I felt supported in that way, and like there was something, I felt that pulling towards well-being. I felt that internally, but I was also really troubled. I had PTSD. I had, getting up in the morning was agony. I would have panic attacks as I was driving down the road. That was a really rough period in my life, but because I had that other side of it, I had a hunger to find a way to free myself from it, and that's what I did.
And was it that hunger that got you on the path to, because you started off doing your first Reiki at 9, when was it that you realized that you had to start addressing those childhood issues? Was that at 9 in teenage years, or was it not until 21?
Well, during my childhood, it was more survival. It was, and this is something that, we can all forgive ourselves for. We can forgive ourselves for learning those lessons, because most of us are raised in an environment that is somewhat already disconnected, that's already out of alignment. So sometimes to survive in that out of aligned reality, you just have to cope. It's like duck down while you're developing, while you're learning how to interact with the world, and just survive that moment with whatever tools you can, and then you'll be a fully formed adult, fully forming,
Mm-hmm.
and you can unlearn everything.
With what you've learned so far, and you've offered coaching for a long time, you've done a lot of different types of coaching. Again, when I first found your site, it was focused on finding your purpose, which is a core of who you are and what you're doing. But your message has evolved now with the Liberation Mastermind. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that's turning into and what you're doing with that program?
Yeah. I think I actually maybe misspoke a moment ago when I was talking about my own hunger to heal myself, because it actually wasn't a hunger to heal myself. Another kind of pivotal experience that happened to me when I was around 9 years old is I saw war on television, and I can still feel it in my body. That moment when I realized that wasn't something that was in fairy tale books. Like, I thought that war was like dragons. Like, that was something that used to happen a long time ago in far off lands. Like, the thought that this was allowed, like, it shattered my world. Like, you guys are letting this happen? You guys are like, this is happening? Still? Like, it collapsed my trust in the whole thing. But it also woke a hunger in me to, like, I know that we can do better. Like, I'm absolutely 100% positive that we can do better than we're doing right now as humans. And how? So what I experienced and what I intuitively knew was that those big crises that were happening out there were not that different from the crises that I was experiencing. That war was something that I knew about war already. I know about violence. I knew about hunger. I knew about, these were things that I experienced internally. And that was a point where that was accessible. So maybe I can't, go out waving white flags on every battlefield, but there was a point that felt like, okay, this is where I can enter. This is where I can enter the scene and have an impact. So that was really the heart of my own healing, was that I wanted to participate in the healing of the planet. And I still want to heal and participate in the healing of the planet. So that's evolved, like you said, that's evolved from being 9 years old and doing Reiki on the on the frogs that are drowning in my pool, to now I really am passionate about working with other change makers, people who are doing transformational work on the planet. Partially because what we expect out of mental health care in our community right now is absolutely devastating. Like this idea that people are going to their psychiatrist for 20 years and taking 5 different pills for something that Daddy did 30 years ago. I mean, we can do better. Really, we can do better. I promise you. I've seen miracles like you wouldn't even believe around healing that kind of stuff, healing those unhealthy learned patterns. So that's what I'm doing now. That's what I'm really focusing on now, is teaching people how to heal themselves, heal those little glitches in their childhood, and teaching people how to do that for other people. Teaching coaches how to do the deep underlying psychological, spiritual realigning that's necessary for living a good life and doing good work on the planet.
And you're a great example of that. That's basically what you're coaching. You're saying, here's what I've done for myself. Do this for yourself and show other people how to do it for themselves.
Yeah. And that's how my program is designed as well. Like you do the work on yourself and you do the work on the other participants from day one. So you learn how to heal yourself through healing other people, but in a responsible way. I think a lot of times that's a common thing that happens in psychotherapy as well, where, the wounded healer starts analyzing and it can get really messy. And this is a way to responsibly learn how to heal others while you're healing yourself, and you know that the person in front of you is taking responsibility of themselves because they're also in the program. Versus,
right.
Yeah.
And how? Because you've mentioned psychotherapy a couple of times. You've also mentioned Reiki, an alternative energy medicine. It's been around for a very long time. There's the energy meridians. How is your program different than psychotherapy or Reiki work? Do you include those things in it?
Yeah, so my program it includes a lot of psychotherapy practices and also energy work. One of the big differences is that it includes both, and that's a key component to healing rather than just understanding. A lot of psychotherapy, you go in and you can cry over the same freaking incident 100 times and nothing moves. And something that I commonly hear from people is that they feel worse after a therapy session often if they really get into something. And that's never the case with EFT or any of these other modalities that I'm teaching. EFT, by the way, is emotional freedom technique, and it's one of the main modalities that I use. And energy work, on the other hand, frequently people don't feel anything. A lot of times when you go to get Reiki, you might feel like, oh, that's relaxing, but it doesn't, it's not like, and now something's different.
Right.
Getting crystals waved over your head, it might feel good, but you don't necessarily, and now my career is taking off, and now I met the man of my dreams. And when you put the two together, when you put the psychological work together with the energy work, you start to get real results, like tangible, easy to verbalize, measurable shifts in your life.
I love that description, because I work with a lot of coaches or people that are therapists now that are shifting into becoming coaches because they feel like they're so restricted by the results that they can get, but also by the legislation. Yeah. There's so many requirements and everything else. And I also know a lot of massage therapists who became massage therapists because they fell in love with Reiki and can't make money doing Reiki by itself because people don't want to pay for it because they don't feel those results.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's really interesting to hear you talking about mixing them together and really making a huge impact.
Another component too with the energy work is that you get really drastically different results when you also have a physical component to the energy work. So doing EFT, you're tapping on the acupressure points. It's one of the reasons why acupuncture is so incredibly effective, is because we're so physically based. It's why placebo pills work so well. It's like, yeah, energy follows intention, and that's really why placebo pills work. But we believe in the things that we see and feel. We believe in that, and that has a lot of power. although EFT, I have had a lot of clients that came to me with EFT that are like, this is bullshit, this isn't working, now I'm crying, and now I'm happy, and now I forgive my parents, and, so it's all, you don't have to actually believe in it for it to work.
Right, because I know that for me it wasn't, I had only learned about it last year, and I'm very open-minded, so just whether I believed it or not, did it, and yeah, it's amazing that the results that you can feel just from that. But you're saying that you're not just doing EFT, you're also mixing all the other modalities with it.
Yeah, EFT is I think EFT is like basic first aid. It should be taught in kindergarten. What I'm doing is combining the EFT with deeper psychological and energetic work. So we're looking at hypnosis, we're looking at focusing. Focusing is something that's similar to somatic experiencing. I don't know if any of the listeners have experienced that, but it's about actually feeling the physical, the way that you physically have stored a trauma. So you feel anxiety, you feel that as a tightening in your stomach. So being able to follow the physical sensation of your emotions as a way to release them. So we learn focusing, we learn hypnosis, we learn matrix reimprinting, which is kind of utilizes some hypnosis techniques going into the inner child work. You also learn a lot more in-depth understanding of energetic anatomy. So we learn the chakra systems, and we'll also be doing some shamanic work, some shamanic journeying, and reconnecting in with the whole. Like I said, the core of this program is based on these 4 principles. So we do a lot of work around embodying those principles, that we're all connected, perfectly designed, flowing towards well-being, and infinitely powerful. Another difference in my program from a lot of the programs that are offered, a lot of the other ways that you can learn these modalities, is that it's not really modality focused. You learn these modalities, but you learn it through experience. So the focus of the program is really an experience, experiencing it yourself, and experiencing working with a client. So it's very little theory and a lot of transformation.
And what about people who may have already been exposed to EFT, or may have already done Reiki work, or might even be licensed psychotherapists?
Yeah.
How can this licensed psychotherapist learn from you?
Yeah. So, yeah, totally. So this program is, honestly, it's a little bit hard for me to express that exact thing, because this is about me, and this is what I'm here to do on the planet. So I know that if I have a client in front of me, that we're going to have a miracle together. So if you are already experiencing miracles in your sessions, and you feel like you're doing what you're meant to be doing, and you're working as a psychotherapist, and magic is happening in every session, then this program isn't for you. You're good. Start your own program. If you're not feeling those miracles, if you're feeling like it's not that exciting, it's not that impressive, it's not a miracle, and then by the end of this program, you're going to be experiencing miracles in your sessions.
And what if they're having great results with the clients that they have, but they're not getting the financial rewards that they think that they're... Because you mentioned earlier that that's a great sign.
Yeah. I wonder, I wonder about that, if that's a real thing that happens. That you get really great results, and that you feel like this is exactly what I want to be doing, and it's not coming in. If that's happening, then something is out of alignment. Something is out of alignment. The universe will speak to you in dollar signs. Something's out of alignment, whether that's an internal block towards your own abundance and your growth, a resistance to showing up, expanding your message. There's something that's blocking. Either that, or maybe they need to be in your program, and it's more about education around business. That's the other thing I would say, is that you do need to be educated around business. But if you're educated around business, and you're getting miraculous results and you're still not getting more clients in, people aren't paying what you want them to be paying, then there's some other internal block that needs to be addressed. Something is out of alignment.
I love that you brought that up, because people would ask, well, why are you guys promoting each other's programs when you're doing them at the same time? You're both helping people in their coaching business, but you just said it. I'm looking at the business mechanics of it,
yeah.
And you're looking at the spiritual content, which is so important to me. But I love that you're doing it, and that is your calling. You talked a lot about getting back in alignment. Do you have any kind of techniques that somebody could start using right away?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Is there anything you could share with us?
Yeah. There was something that I wanted to say in response to your question, though, about a psychotherapist or a Reiki practitioner who's already had this, they're already doing the work. You and I know, share this value, but your work is never ending. It's not like, it's not like, I think that when you first start, maybe you look at programs like, which is the one that I'm going to do? Which is the one program that I'm going to do? And by the time you've been doing it for 2 or 3 years, you're like, just when you feel called, sign up. When you feel called, when you feel like this feels good, do it, because it's career development. This is what you need to be. This is your business investment. You have an online coaching practice. You have no overhead. This is your overhead. Doing programs like Mark's, doing programs like mine, this is your business cost. You need to have this budgeted in your expenses. So, yes, something we can do right now for aligning. That's a good thing to do. So this is something that I call the 1 moment meditation, because I know that it's hard sometimes to cut off a chunk of time during your day to do nothing but sit and meditate, but you should do it anyways. You can also do this, though. This is a way for you to take any moment, any experience that you're having, and use it as a tool to realign. It's very simple. So using the 4 liberation principles, that we are all connected, that we are perfectly designed, that there is a natural flow towards well-being, and that we are infinitely powerful. Just pick one of them and take a moment and look for evidence. So this is something that we can do right now as you're listening. You can close your eyes or you can look around as you like. But pick one, whichever one is most exciting to you right now, and I'll say them again, that we are all connected. So you, me, rocks, trees, stars, spirits, colors, molecules, we are all connected. We are perfectly designed. There is a natural flow towards well-being. And we are infinitely powerful. So choosing one of those principles, I want you to just look around your life, your body, your room, and look for evidence to back up one of those principles. So if I'm looking at everything being perfectly designed, I can look for evidence that because Mark and I had some technical difficulties in getting this call started, my husband is getting some extra time with my kids right before he goes on a trip. And that's really perfect. So whatever it is for you, that's just one example. And just look for evidence that's present in your life right now to back up one of those four laws. Mark, do you want to share?
I do. In fact, it's interesting because I am so much in alignment with all of those that rather than looking for the ones that I feel the strongest about, I was looking for the one that I found the most resistance with.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one that we're everything happened. The one that you used was the first thing that popped into my mind. So then the second one was about me being infinitely powerful, and that's something that I've struggled with personally in my life, feeling like, oh, that's an ego thing, and being able to separate that out and saying, I can make anything happen. But I realize that I'm infinitely powerful because of the connection to everything else. The fact that we are all connected, that we are all part of God and the universe. So that is a big part of being infinitely powerful. But me as an individual part of that is also infinitely powerful. And the evidence is showing up in the relationships that I'm attracting into my life. Attracting you into my life and saying, okay, we're going to partner together. Not just, yes, we're on the same mission, good luck. I hope it works out for you, but to be able to work for that good, to be on relationships with people like Marsha Weeder and all these other people that are out there changing, and not just out there doing it, but out there wanting to support me, means that the universe is not only lining them up for me, but that I am infinitely powerful in being able to create those and then turn those relationships into life-changing events for other people.
Yeah. Beautiful. Great.
Very, very nice. And yeah, I think that all of those principles are wonderful, but just to be able to focus on any one of them at any point is a wonderful, quick, easy meditation, very powerful, and I feel uplifted just from that moment. So thank you.
Yeah, this is like I was saying before, that this is the reality. This is your natural state. So your ability to sink into it is going to be, you're going to have an easy time being aware of that is when you start practicing. And in that moment that you can actually give up, at least temporarily, your fear patterns, even if they come right back, because they're stored in your energy system. It's kind of a 911 method of getting in alignment. Because alignment is actually available to you even if you haven't healed. It just maybe takes a lot of work to maintain.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you so much for sharing that extra gift. How can people find out more about your Liberation Mastermind?
Yeah, so if you're listening to this interview, you're already on the list, and information is going to be coming at you. Below this video, you can apply to the program, and I really can't wait to read your applications. It's one of the delights of this whole launch process is reading people's applications, because I really love to hear what people feel called to do. Like I was telling you, Mark, I felt this calling to participate in doing a better job being humans on the planet, and I really love to hear like what's the change that you're wanting to be a part of? What is it that you have some big mission, or maybe you have a small sweet desire, or whatever it is for you that's deeply desiring to express itself, and you feel stopped. I want to hear about that in your application, and I'm really excited to read. I also want to let you know that when you apply, that you get 20 minutes of free consultation with me just for applying. So even if it's not the right program for you, or if you're not sure, you'll get a chance to talk to me, and we can look at it together and see what's going on in your practice, or your in your work that you need support with.
And you don't do one-on-one consultations or one-on-one coaching anymore?
No, I don't do one-on-one consulting anymore. The only time that I work one-on-one with people is if they're in my program. So this is a singular opportunity.
Fantastic. Well, many of the people that are listening from my audience know me from the Personal Transformation Summit, where I interviewed 41 people that are change makers on the planet, and asked them that one question: what change do you want to see in the world? So I'm looking forward to having people share with you the change they want to make in the world, and watching you help them to be that change.
There's something else that I want to say actually about that particular thing, Mark, because I know we typically think about trauma as something that's personal. Like my mommy said this to me and whatever. But trauma actually is something that happens like me seeing war on TV. It can be traumatic just to be aware of what's going on in the world. And if you approach that desire to make a change from a place of being traumatized, like not being able to sit with it, not being able to be with the deep devastation that's happening on the planet, then again it's going to be, you fighting reality, you resisting what's so, and it's really it's out of alignment. It's out of an integrity with your highest knowing. So that's something else that we are going to be working with in the program, is healing our despair around social injustice, environmental problems, humanitarian issues.
I'm glad you added that. That's very important to address.
Yeah. All right, Mark. Well, thank you so much for talking with me.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for working through the technical issues and not postponing this. I'm really excited and look forward to our ongoing growth.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Namaste.